Welcome to the Power of Design podcast, where we have inspiring conversations that explore the intersection of architecture, construction, and real estate, so we can understand the dynamics and trends that shape an exciting and powerful built environment. This is your host, Jack Osa. Today on the show, I'll be talking to Chris Moeller. Chris is the founder of Orion Growth, a workplace consulting firm specialized in helping companies with multiple locations nationwide to plan, design, and build productive and engaging workplaces. Chris believes every person deserves an efficient and nurturing work environment, and his business is in a mission to help companies control costs by streamlining their real estate portfolio. As an entrepreneur, Chris has built a diverse team of very talented professionals that provide their clients a comprehensive and strategic solution to their corporate real estate needs. This is my conversation with Chris. Hey Chris, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, Jack.
Chris, during the past 10 years, your firm have been helping companies with multiple locations to plan, manage workplace design and construction projects. During the strategy and delivery process, how do you help them improve their employee experience?
In a simple answer, it's restoring human connection. I think creating the opportunities to bump into each other in the planned environment and restoring that human connection is something that's different.
And why is that important?
Well, I think ultimately what we try to do with our spaces for our clients is create an environment where there's a sense of pride. We believe that if you have a sense of pride in your planned environment, then that ultimately will carry over to the quality of the work that you do.
Interesting. Tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Orange, Connecticut, small town outside of New Haven, and moved to Charleston, South Carolina. Went to the College of Charleston in 1994 and lived in Charleston for about 10 years before coming to Charlotte.
And what was like your childhood?
My childhood was great. Loving family, middle-class family. Dad was in insurance, mom was a nurse. Was a public school kid until the second half of high school, and then went to a private boarding school called Avon Old Farms in Avon, Connecticut.
Nice. And how was that change to go to college and finally kind of deciding what do you want to do when you grow up?
Well, I think the cliche is I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I'm growing up. That's the nice thing about being an entrepreneur is that it allows you to run a learning company.
Yeah.
And it allows you to continue to set expectations for yourself that are hard to achieve. But to ground that a little bit, I think my studies in communication, my studies at college in organizational management really sort of helped me put a personal perspective on my career in thinking about people first.
Yeah. What was your first job?
My first job, I worked at a pizza place for about 3 nights.
Nice. Did you eat all the pizza?
Bussing tables. I've had probably 30 jobs, Jack. The last 25 years, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been lucky enough to run, my own company and impact people's lives on a personal level for the past 25 years.
So tell me about your last job before you decide to start your own business.
So the last job before I started Orion, this is the second venture in my career, but this current venture, Orion Growth, the last job I had was commercial office interior furniture, contract furniture sales.
And what kind of clients did you deal with?
So I think that's kind of where it gets unique, right? I was here in Charlotte, and I ran into a client who had a national need. And this was in the early 2000s before really technology allowed the market to become smaller and allowed us to be more national and even global in reach. And they were in a very fast-paced, what they called back in the entrepreneurial days, a gazelle.
Yeah.
I helped that particular client go from 16 employees to just under 3,000 employees in about 2 years. crazy growth.
So what did you do to help that client specifically?
So they came to me specifically, they came to us as a firm for contract furniture. But what we realized pretty quickly was that they didn't have any process around corporate real estate. And they didn't have any process around workplace strategy or implementation. They had no programming requirements other than get butts and seats.
Yeah. So how initially was basically, a furniture need that they came to you guys, but you recognize was a deeper problem they have.
Absolutely. And again, through the last, sort of 15 years of my career, I find that usually a project starts with a defined need, something finite, something simple that I consider siloed, like furniture, or project management associated with construction, or just design.
Yeah.
The holistic approach, I think, is what separates Orion from the rest of the pack, in that we say, okay, great, furniture, but why?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, and it's usually part of a bigger program or a bigger project.
Right. So one of the things that we work hard to do is to interview our clients. They're looking to contract with us, but we're also looking to interview them. I feel that we can't really necessarily do what we do unless we understand their culture.
Right, and there might be things that they don't know they need.
That's right.
And usually, as you mentioned at the beginning, your mission of restoring that human connection, that's what you want to achieve. But in order to do that, you really need to know what they need to get there. Well,
that's right. And with where we are with the workplace, we've heard the comments before that workplace strategy is important. HR, the crunch of people, attracting talent. We've been talking about that for years. But what is it that truly attracts talent? And we sort of try to think that we think that between the planned environment and the virtual environment, that's what attracts talent. If you can create a space that people are proud of, that shows the people that you've hired that you're investing in them for personal fulfillment, they're going to give you quality work.
Sure. So what are the basic services your firm provides to your clients?
So I think it kind of breaks into three buckets. Strategy and consulting on the front end. So we work with brokerage, and we get into the nerdy math of utilization and square footage. Our clients are generally portfolio based. So small cap companies, up to around $1 billion or $2 billion is the general number. Usually 30 to 75 locations. And on the brokerage side with strategy and consulting, we really try to create that repeatable program so that we're making sure that the utilization is right and that the actual square footage that we're looking for is.
So the second bucket is the program?
The first bucket is the brokerage, strategy and consulting.
Yeah.
The second bucket is the program and developing specifications and construction standards that are repeatable.
Okay.
And the third is delivery. We actually don't just consult and try to advise clients as to how to do it, but we get dirty. We roll up our sleeves and we actually follow that process end to end so that we can give the client a ribbon cutting or a delivery ceremony at the end.
Yeah, and I can see how you have like these three strong legs, the strategy, the program, and the delivery. What happens when a client, a potential client, approach your firm, but they just want one of those three services? They don't see the need of, let's say, strategy.
Sure. That's a really good question. In fact, we have a client that fits that mold right now. We had a local broker here in town, actually a mutual friend of ours, yours and mine, that came to me who had a potential portfolio client, a national client, that had a one-off here in Charlotte. And they recognized the need for a national program. So they asked if, I might do a favor and get in touch with their VP operations and start to have a conversation. So with that client, we ended up taking on a transactional project, mostly just layout, a minor program in furniture. But through that discussion, the latest discussion with our client has been that this has to go into a more national program.
Right.
So if we see the opportunity to come in transactionally, knowing that there can be the right fit with culture, and that they're accepting of the concept that we have to create proud spaces for people so that they can ultimately turn into fulfilled people, then we have a fit.
Nice. Talk to me about your team. I know that what you guys do, it's very unique. There are many different firms that they specialize in one or two of these pieces, but the very comprehensive approach you guys have to the business, I think, is very unique and special. How do you make that happen? What type of professional do you need in that team? What type of person? And even I'd like to know more details about your processes and systems.
Sure. So there's a lot to unpack there, but it starts with, we've done work in 26 states. I was doing a little homework before I came in, 41 markets across the country. And we've worked with build teams, everybody from landlord groups, landlord brokerage, property managers, to general contractors and PMs, all the way to subcontractors in 41 markets. What you realize pretty quickly is the only thing that is going to tee that project up for success is experience, is setting the stage immediately that you've done this before, and that you're in it to work together. But you have to build a program of trust with these build teams in a matter of weeks. 16 weeks, the project can start and finish.
Yeah.
Whereas the traditional experience, you have professionals that you can pull in the local market that you've known for years, and that you trust will just work. So in that being said, our team, everybody that works at Orion has 20-ish years of experience currently. We're in growth mode, and I'm currently building that dream team so that each person inside of those silos, inside of that vertical, can really be empowered to build their own team.
Yeah. What kind of processes or systems do you have in place to streamline that process?
Really good question. So it sort of goes along with the question of how technology is impacting what we do. The single largest change for us in the last 2 years has been the migration to the cloud, SharePoint, and the way that we interact with our groups of people and how we share information. The communication is key in the success or failure of a project. And we have made a massive investment in time and resources to engage our clients technologically, get away from the old traditional voicemail, email, and make a more interactive location, a more interactive virtual experience, if you will, for both the build team and our clients.
Yes.
And we're going to continue to do that, indefinitely. I will continue to invest in our virtual workplace solution as long as we have this company.
Interesting. Let's go back to the human connection topic, because I think that's probably the most relevant impact you guys are having in the world today. You shared with me a really good book where they talk about the employee experience is created by 3 buckets: the space, technology, and culture. And you're affecting the space, the technology at some extent, but you don't have much control of the culture. Any company, any organization, they own their culture. Do you see any, I'm sure you're tempted to go in there and affect their culture when you see things that could be better. Is there a way, or have you thought about how can you guys influence culture as you're interacting with those organizations?
Absolutely. There's, again, the old saying of sometimes no answer is actually, in fact, an answer. We impact culture quietly. We impact culture by showing employees that ownership is being responsible and investing back in their planned environment, and talking about the virtual environment and how that interaction works with them, creating a sense of pride and creating a cool space, a space that is something that employees want to show their friends, is what starts in my opinion, the culture of a company, or has the opportunity to regenerate.
What will you say is the ideal workplace?
Planned, virtual, or cultural?
All of them.
So it would start with an understanding that there are multiple workplaces. It's 2019. Technology has enabled us to be mobile. We have work from home programs. We have co-shared spaces. We have kids at home. We have lives that we have enveloped work around. So I would say that the ultimate workplace would take into account all three of those: a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a well-planned, thought-out program associated with the way that the work process works, so the planned environment, and then the interaction with technology. There's nothing more frustrating than getting into a video conference call and clicking something that doesn't work.
Sure.
So it should just all work.
Yeah, it's supposed to work. How do you think generationally people react to those needs, meaning, purpose, function, technology?
Oh, wow, there's a really good question. When we get into generational discussions, I think that we have probably the most dynamic work base right now in American history.
Yeah.
We have 19-year-olds to 90-year-olds that are still interacting in the same marketplace. We have technology that's had probably the largest impact it's ever had in the last decade or 15 years. And we have savvy buyers. We have savvy marketplace. So I think generationally, you have to create a culture and create a planned environment that speaks to all of that. You have to take all of that into consideration. There's a now, what we call in the office, there's the way we're doing it now. Then there's writer, which is my favorite word, which isn't a word, but it's writer. And then there's future. And I think that we work very hard to work in that writer spot.
Yeah.
And I think if you work writer and you take into context and take into consideration the generation of the person that you're working with, writer is a good place to be.
Sure. I think it's very interesting that, the workplace design change, it's been accelerated probably in the last 5-10 years. And it's because of technology. We didn't have the ability to work at home or somewhere else because we didn't have the ways to communicate, to be in touch with the team. Now we do. And that's creating all these new places so we can exercise our same function just at a different place. And overall, I think the most critical part of what's happening with workplace design today is that human connection. I think we, in the last maybe 80 years, we've been losing that connection just because the work environment had become a machine. And humans, we have become pieces of the machine. That we just go to this big building that is the machine. I'm a piece of that, and I just need to show up and do this task over and over again. And if I don't do it right, then that piece is going to be replaced. But that piece has no feelings, dreams, or emotions.
That's right.
As long as the whole machine produces the result. Mm-hmm. And we've been realizing that people have been wasting their lives 40 years, 40 hours a week.
For a watch. For a gold watch.
Yeah, just to be retired. And they realize that it's too late now. You're too old. You didn't live your life. You didn't put yourself first. Mm-hmm. You didn't put your family first.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest shift in workplace design that we're seeing today.
You nailed it. Our generation. I'm Generation X. And the history has proven that it's Generation X's problem to solve. Right from the beginning. I didn't ask for this. It's when I was born. My parents did this to me. But the reality is, we're a very small generation of problem solvers. I like to think that we can see the future and bridge the conversation with the younger generation, millennials or Gen Z, and still relate to the boardroom, which generally tends to be the folks who are boomers and are exiting. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, Jack, but I don't work to retire. That's not a goal of mine.
Yeah, me
but
neither.
the generation before us worked to retire. Like,
Sure.
if they could just retire. I think I've shared with you, my goal is to eventually feel fulfilled enough with work to stop doing what I do day to day and be a pumpkin farmer.
Sure.
And people think that's a joke. It's not a joke.
Oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of
But
sense.
that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm not going to walk on the beach with a cardigan sweater thinking that my life is behind me and that now I can just relax.
We'll be right back with more from the Power of Design podcast.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by OSA Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design. We partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
I like when, about 12 years ago when Tim Ferriss came out with the 4-hour work week. Mm-hmm. So he talked about the concept of micro-retirement. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay to work 8 months and take 3 months off of the year just to travel, and you don't have to wait till you're old with money to enjoy life and travel and do things. You can do it right now. It's okay. You don't have to put it at the end. You can sprinkle that rest throughout your life, because at some point you're going to disappear.
That's right.
And it could be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. And my dad used to say, you think you own it, you're only renting it. Doesn't matter what it is you think you own.
That's right. There is an expiration date.
I think that translates real well into the planned environment. That translates real well into work, because the way that people work, technology has affected and influenced the allocation, the square footage, the utilization. People are still arguing over whether or not the open plan's effective. The open plan's effective. If you don't program in heads down space and meeting space and break room space and lounge space and bathrooms and kitchens, then the open plan space is not effective.
Sure.
So, the holistic approach to the planned environment, coupled with the fact that it has to be supported by the virtual environment to allow people the flexibility to work where they want and when they want, is what creates culture. Sure. It's what creates pride in your work product.
Yeah. And that's what you want when you want that machine to create results. And you have engaged people that they're pursuing their potential through that organization, you'll get the best of both worlds. Happy people, and the machine is producing amazing results, which it's okay.
Yeah, we forget that technology is driven by people.
Yeah.
Process is driven by people. And we all have somewhere that we've come from that's affecting us.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive, negative, we all carry something with us.
Yeah.
And if we're going to truly design space and we're going to consult on workplace strategies and national portfolios and how we're going to make these repeatable kits of parts, we have to realize that this is a global economy and people come from different places. So how can we paint that paintbrush with the widest stroke?
Sure. What do you think will be the future of workplace in 10, 15 years?
What do I hope, or what do I think?
Both.
I hope people continue to create great spaces that allow people to bump into people. I hope that the virtual workplace doesn't get all of the focus. I hope the planned environment, I hope conversations around programming and how people work and the opportunity to engage. Residential is a perfect example. The kitchen, right, is the heart of the home.
Yeah.
What's the heart of the office?
The break room.
Right. It's the kitchen.
Yeah.
So why are we putting those around four walls? Because of a microwave? Because of lean cuisine smells bad?
Yeah.
No. How about we get past that? How about we create the heart of the home in the office?
Yeah.
And give people the opportunity to engage and find out what's really going on in their life. Maybe your work product is bad because of something else.
Oh, sure.
A computer's not going to tell you that. An email's not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
How many times have we misconstrued that communication? Like,
Yes.
why are you so angry? I'm not angry. Well, it came off that way
Yes.
in an email.
Yes.
How about pick up the phone and speak?
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine the amount of misunderstandings that happens just because of that. Even worse than email to me is text messages.
Oh.
Sometimes I get text, I'm like, what happened? What did I do? I'm like, it's just because of time, they just want to tell you something fast, and you're like, wow, what's happening here? And I wonder how times I come across like that, just because maybe you want to be efficient, so you keep it simple. And that goes deeper because that could be like the type of person. Some people want details and they want you to say, hi, how are you doing? Ask about your kids and then talk about business. Some people is right into business, and it has nothing to do with how they're relating to you or what they think of you, but some people take it that way.
Well, you make a good point. The influence of technology on process, right? We talk about continuity of communication in our office a lot. We work very hard for various reasons, mostly risk mitigation, but we document our process extensively, and we work very hard to do that. Because at the end of the project, if we go back through project notes, which we have every week on project calls on from multiple sites, it tells a story.
Yeah.
And when you choose to use a different medium of technology, meaning you move from phone to email to text message, you lose that continuity.
Yeah.
Remember how people used to hide behind voicemails?
Yes.
Or they wouldn't leave voicemails. Or when they had bad news for you, they would call you so that it wasn't written down. And then you would document that via email. With all of these different opportunities for communication, I think one of the biggest challenges that companies face is keeping that communication channel clear, or at least discoverable through the end of a project.
Yeah, I think we're suffering from overwhelming amount of choices, and there's gonna be more and more and more choices. So everybody's gonna go different ways,
and that's, I think, what we consider on our strategic side for the virtual workplace is creating that process around the virtual workplace and putting some bumpers or guards up along the way to say, you know what, let's create this channel. And there's a lot of big, huge companies out there that are creating that project management type tool that are keeping people within the boundaries. Yeah. So,
with this economy today, how busy the marketplace is, in the design, construction, real estate industries, people are making things happen. Everybody's busy. I know you guys are. How do you see the current state of the industry, and what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years?
That's a really good question. So I mentioned earlier that we've been lucky enough to do work across the country in a couple of different international opportunities. One perspective that I do have is that it's not just Charlotte. The market is as busy as can be across the country.
Yeah.
I watched from the ashes of 2009, 2010. I watched different areas of the country sort of recover at a different time. So you would have your response to RFPs would be immediate in some areas, in some municipalities, and then you'd be prying to try to get a response in others. It's not sustainable, I don't believe. I think that it's so busy that there's a lot of costly mistakes. Yeah. I think that we're all moving really, really fast. And I think that sometimes when you can check a stakeholder and just ask the question, have the human connection to be able to pick up the phone and say, why? Are we creating a deadline for the sake of creating a deadline? Are we fabricating a deadline and then stressing out a build team? Or is it really actually a necessary milestone deadline? And I think that we are pigeonholed into this belief that it has to deliver within a certain amount of time. If we properly plan, that old line, prior planning prevents poor performance.
Yes.
If you have a program and you have a repeatable kit of parts and you have a culture and you have a celebrated group of people that you trust, you can do great things.
How does the power of design impact who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I think the power of design impacts who I am. I love design. I love the experience of a well thought out and quality constructed build. I'm an appreciator of history. I like old things. I like rusty things. I like organic things. And I like the way that makes me feel. I like the feeling that I get from something that has had the time to percolate. But there's also a sense of responsibility when it comes to the cost of that. When I walk through a space that is impeccable and unbelievable and evokes all that, and I find out that it was ridiculously overpriced, I lose that feeling.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a well thought out design has fiduciary responsibility, but that's part of who I am.
Yes.
I don't like expensive places that make me feel that way.
Yeah, that's interesting because I always think about, as an architect, I'm using somebody else's money. It's not my money. So I feel that I want to be responsible because of that. But on the other side, if it's their money and they want to do an outfit for $300 a square foot and they want to pay for it, they buy what they want with their money.
That's right.
So for me as an architect, like if somebody tells me, spend $300 a square foot in an outfit, I'll be glad to do it. If they want me to spend $50, I'll be glad to do it.
Right.
But it's basically you just buying what you want with what you have.
Exactly. And I think that ultimately, right, the power of design is what evokes your culture. So if the statement is that I want a client-facing facility that is $300 a foot because I'm bringing clients in from all over the world so we can discuss multi-million-dollar deals, that is your culture. That's what you're trying to evoke.
Right. So
that tells you a lot right there. When you know what type of project it is, you know what you're getting into culturally. Yeah. So I think the question was, how does the power of design impact who you are and what you do? I think that the power of design, when you really get into the specification and the breakdown of it, is ultimately what tells you about the culture and the people of the company you're about to work for.
Nice. What's your biggest frustration with architects and designers?
You didn't ask me that before.
So. No, I just I had that in my mind. I need to ask this.
It's an awesome question. I would say so. With us, with Orion Growth, we create. A program, what we call an SK1. So it's a sketch. Most brokers go in with a test fit of boxes and they try to say, okay, is this about the right square footage? We take that and try to help brokers with a little bit more of a schematic design that brings some programming into that so that we're not just arguing back and forth over the merits of the functionality of open plan.
Yeah.
So the translation of the SK1 to architectural plan sets to CDs.
Yeah.
We try real hard. We call it ragu, the sauce. There's an old commercial that was called ragu. It's in there. It was like an old Italian guy used to say, it's in there.
Yeah.
So we like to say that our SK1 is ragu.
Yes.
When we get to work with different architects in different markets, we are given different levels of acumen. And along with that comes a lot of questions. So I would say we're trying to complicate we're trying to create a streamlined opportunity to get through a process.
Yes.
And I think that architecturally speaking, the more details, the better.
Yes.
So for me personally, I would say the details drive me crazy.
Yes.
But it's the nature of the business. You can't not have details in a plan set.
Sure.
But it's like I said, it's part of the process. When we have what seemingly ragu, and there's an error or omission on the architect side, and it shows up in the field, take ownership of it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's where
mean,
that's
and
where
we're
that's
all
where the
gonna-
architect needs to step
There's
up.
just so many people and professionals involved, and we're all humans. Somebody's gonna make a mistake at some point. That's
Right.
for sure.
Right.
There's no way we're all gonna do a perfect project.
That's right.
But I think the beauty is when you build that team and that trust, and you can say, yeah, I messed up here, and then somebody else, and it's gonna happen multiple times during the life of the project.
Right.
So
It's just taking ownership is a
Yeah.
big part of it. It's like we talked about that with technology. There's nothing more human than the architectural process.
yeah,
You have assistive technology, but it's ultimately your brain that's creating those plan sets that'll ultimately be built by hand
yeah.
and turned into a planned environment.
Yeah, I don't make any mistakes on my projects.
Never.
My plans are perfect.
Oh, listen, when your plans are wrong, just admit it. It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe I will someday. Cool. That's all I had for today. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
We didn't talk about transparency and ethics at all.
Yes.
And when we talk about getting back to the importance of human potential and fulfillment, I think one of the dialogues that's missing, to your point about human error and admitting, is the human potential, I think, is greatly based upon your ethics. We work very hard to create a culture in our office of transparency, cost avoidance, fiduciary responsibility back to the client. And one thing that I look forward to is seeing the industry change a little bit so that we're not after the change order, we're after avoiding the change order.
Sure.
And I think that it's an important note, because if you're going to consult and you're going to be a strategic partner for a long-term client that has multiple locations, and you get into the nitty-gritty of HR and the human potential and the work product that they put out, if you don't talk about professional ethics and transparency, I think it falls short.
Sure. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I'm really enjoying working with you. I know we're helping you guys with your brand, and it's been an amazing experience kind of getting under the hood and learning how you conceive the business and what you have created. It's amazing. I really admire and respect who you are, and I look forward to continue working together.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. 10 years, it happened quick.
Yeah.
Looking forward to another 10, and thank you for all the help.
Sure. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Find out more about Jack and Osa Studio at osastudio.com and follow us on Instagram at the Power of Design podcast. Thank you.